let's do a fucking horse girl movie, shall we? Let's watch a movie about girls who are also horses, but sometimes girls are not horses, and there's definitely no boy horses, except when there are horses. Who the hell knows? We are watching Musume, Beginning of a New Era, which is the promotional movie for a phone-based gacha game, which is also based on horse racing, which is an Ouroboros of gambling addiction that I find plainly a little bit horrifying, but also quite elucidating. If you follow my channel, if you've listened to me talk about stuff, you probably know my opinion on gacha as a mechanic, right? Which is to say, I don't mind gambling mechanics in games. I think gambling mechanics are fun. I think gambling is a perfectly fun, safe, and healthy habit for lots of people who engage with it on a reasonable level and who are not addicted. But the economic foundations of the gambling industry, including the gacha industry, is based on that which we nowadays call whale hunting, which is to say, all of the people who sort of casually engage, yeah, that's fine. Like, we're okay with that. We'll service those people a little bit. But the industry of gambling and the industry of gacha is gravitationally bound. It is orbiting around the singular goal of finding people who do not have healthy spending habits, who are not able to control their limits, and who are vulnerable to psychological manipulation, and manipulating the shit out of them as violently as humanly possible, right? And this is sort of the miserable thing about gambling, is that it's a perfectly safe, perfectly sensible, very fun hobby for lots of people who are not particularly negatively affected by it, but for the people who are negatively affected by it, it will ruin their entire fucking lives. And gacha, as a games industry free-to-play monetization model, is entirely predicated on finding those people and ruthlessly exploiting them as much as they can possibly get away with. And some countries are starting to introduce regulation, like China, for example, have introduced a lot of legislation. It's like, no, you can't just, like, at least you have to give people the fucking odds. You have to be able to have spending limits, right? And the European Union has been looking into it, and there's been a long debate about loot boxes. Well, that's not actually technically gambling because you're not getting anything out of it that's worth money, so it's not gambling, except when it activates the same neural pathways in the brain, and when it extracts the same amount of money from people as gambling does, I think the distinction is without a difference. But whatever. Just want to say this up front, that I would recommend, if you are going to engage with a gacha game, if you're going to engage with anything that has gambling mechanics in it, do it very carefully. Because if you have the vulnerability, which can be, to the best of my knowledge, the gambling addiction thing is often has a genetic component. Like, it can be to some extent heritable, I believe, same as many other addictions. Be really fucking careful with it, and like, be really careful about like the ways in which these things are designed to hook your dopamine protectors. That's my preaching up front, just so as we're all clear about where I stand on this stuff. Having said that, Musume has also fucking exploded in popularity. It has become monstrously popular, and it's not just because of the gambling, right? It's not just because a bunch of people became gambling addicts and started pouring all of their money into the games. That's not the only reason, right? That's part of it. Certainly that's part of it. And it's partly because, like, the creators at Cygames have been incredibly savvy about marketing the Musume games. But it's also because people just kind of get attached to these fucking characters. Cygames has been extremely effective at creating narratives and creating characters that people engage with and have fun with and make memes about and sort of emotionally invest themselves in. And I watched what was it called? Cinderella Grey Cinderella, the one with the Ugori cap, the seasonal anime that they put out. And I found it to be a really fascinating little animal of an anime, because the first half of it is this genuinely really compelling sports anime, right? Like, what we have, like, this girl from a backwater who learns that she has like a genuine deep talent for running and a deep competitive spirit that's like really engaging her. That's the first half, where like, she has this rival that she overcomes, and she goes to, like, she has to sort of accept the brutal reality that, like, sometimes you can't hold on to childish ideals, you have to move on to greater and bigger heights. And then the second half is this endless cavalcade of introducing a new character and be like, look at this character. Isn't this character so cool? This character's so cool. And no, this character's so cool. Look at them racing. They're racing so cool. They have a cool personality. And then this character, and then this character, and then a final showdown with a character who just has absolutely nothing to do with anything that happens in the first half of the season, who's just sort of introduced out of nowhere, who has the most gacha character design of all of them, and has like a special lightning superpower where she runs super fast, and they're sort of half trying to shove a backstory for her into like the latter half of the season, just desperately trying to make this character compelling, and it ends with a race between her and the protagonist where it's like, you can see what they're trying to build up to, but it's also so rampantly transparent that the latter half of the season, the mandate is introduce as many horse girls as possible. Like, we need to get people to engage with at least one of them so they'll spend money on it in the gacha game, right? It was a fascinating animal because half of it was really genuinely very compelling character-driven storytelling, and then the other half you can just see like the mandate for the manipulation just crunching this whole thing down into like an extended advertisement for a mobile game. It's fascinating. It's not always... It has qualities. It has a lot of qualities. There's a lot of animation Sakuga on display, even in the seasonal anime, and certainly in this movie. Because if you've seen a bunch of incredibly elaborate gifs of horse girls like ragefully activating a superpower and running super fast, floating around on the internet, most of them are probably from this movie, Musume Pretty Derby: Beginning of a New Era, which is a movie that Cygames poured a not insubstantial amount of the money that they have extracted from their unethical gambling practices into as a marketing vehicle to like really cement Musume and their industry. And Cygames, it should be said, have a long history of making anime. Like, they have a long history of investing heavily in anime adaptations of their video games as a form of marketing for the gacha games. It's a very successful thing. They have funded a lot of genuinely very good art, at least on a technical level, even if not on a narrative level. And so I am fascinated with it. I'm deeply fascinated by this thing. And I'm curious about the character design, because the character design of Musume obviously is gacha character design, which means that the character design is often directly at war with what the video game is trying to do. Because, oh God, how do I even explain? The other thing that fascinates me about Musume, we'll get to the movie eventually. This is just what it's like on this channel. Hello, if it's your first time watching me do a reaction on this channel, yes, it's like this all the time. Yes, it's going to continue to be like this the whole time. No, it will never get any better, and I will never, ever in a million years edit these videos. This is what you're stuck with. You're gonna have to live with it. The world building of the Musume universe is also fucking bonkers in a lot of ways, because the fact of the matter of this world is that there's a certain kind of person who's a horse girl. Why are they a horse girl? It's never really explained where they come from or why they exist. Why are there no male horse boys? Never really explained why they... Maybe in some of the extended lore or whatever, but don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. There are horse girls in this world, and they are such an integrated part of society that they have specifically designated horse girl running paths, like bicycle paths, through the infrastructure of every city on Earth. Telephones are made specifically for horse girls because their ears are on top of their head, so that the telephone can reach all the way from their mouth all the way up to their ear. And they look completely fucking bizarre and bonkers, but it's never remarked upon. The world building of the Cinderella Grey anime is just like, yeah, there's a whole bunch of shit here that is specifically adapted to these weird fucking horse girl freaks, and no one ever remarks on it. It's so normal, it's not even worth passing comment on. We're not even doing it as a joke, it's just normal, and it's fascinating. It's a fascinating, weird sci-fi world that's hiding underneath there, which refuses to explain its own premise, and I cannot help but be just drawn in by that completely bonkers nonsense. So, what we're doing today, it only took me 8 minutes to get to the point, 9 minutes. What we're doing today is we're watching Musume Pretty Derby: Beginning of a New Era. This very expensive, like, fully theatrical anime production with incredibly potent Sakuga, apparently, I guess we'll see, and an enormous budget beyond what you could possibly expect for something like this. And if you've not been along to one of these reactions before, again, I don't edit my videos, so how exactly are we going to watch an entire anime movie on this platform without getting copyrighted? I'm glad you asked, by inconveniencing you, dear viewer. Here's how it's gonna work. Imagine you and I are sitting on a couch next to each other, watching this movie at the same time, right? I have my laptop, you have your laptop, and every once in a while, as we're watching the movie, I'll get a bug in my head and I'll be like, ooh, I have to comment on this, and I will tell you 3, 2, 1, pause. And then we will both pause the movie at the same time. I will do all of my yapping and chatting and talking, and then once I'm done with it, it could take a while, I'll say, okay, let's go. 3, 2, 1, go. And then you press play on the video again, and you just keep rolling. And that's the way that we're going to sync up, and that's the way I'm going to avoid showing you footage on the screen that will get me nuked from orbit by the Cygames legal team. If this seems very inconvenient to you, yeah, it is. It's a little bit annoying, but it's because I don't want to edit these videos. And if you want a more convenient version of it, you could become a member of the channel, and you could check the channel Discord, and there is a more convenient way to do this that I have devised, which will be available to you if you are a member. Otherwise, you're going to have to make do with the way that this works here. So, get yourself your own copy of the movie, load it up on your computer, get ready, and I will give you a countdown, and we will start watching. 3, 2, 1, go. By the way, there's a time counter in the top left corner, and subtitles will show up even when I'm not showing you, so use that to sync up. Like I said, we're not going to explain any of this. Ooh, that's fancy. Are we actually doing the thing with the toast in the mouth? Yeah, no, a full sandwich. Okay. Okay. Let's let this play out. But there's some things I want to talk about the way that this is put together already. Okay, 3, 2, 1, pause. So, immediately, there are things happening here, right? Aesthetically, again, like I said, this is Cygames pumping a whole bunch of money into what, from their corporate perspective, is essentially like an extended theater quality hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes long ad for their mobile game, right? And the whole point and purpose of this, thus, is to make Uma Musume Pretty Derby and make the whole Uma Musume universe, like, make it look good, right? That is sort of the aesthetic mandate from the corporate side of things. So if we take a look at this opening sequence here, we get these Zoe-trope animation with these little puppets things going on, where it's like, oh, we're doing like sort of old school animation, and then a bunch of clips and stuff of this lovely running animation. Then this sort of watercolor-esque, right? little bit of animation with these over-designed gacha characters standing in front of like a glowing light that is about to absorb them as they like get dissolved into these streaks of paint and color. So it's all about like putting the money on screen, right? It's all about making it look nice. And it's sort of the same thing with these camera shots, right? Because we get this essentially what I would like essentially it's HDR, right? Like it's all with an HDR filter on it, which is to say we have these like extra saturated dark shadows, we have lots and lots of glow, lots and lots of light bloom happening, blown out colors. We have like this naturalistic, large air quotes, naturalistic sense of lighting, right? Which is all about trying to communicate this idea of like it needs to look expensive, right? Like whatever's on screen right now, it needs to look expensive. It needs to look fancy. Like, these need to be like money shots to a certain extent. And there is definitely a lot of effort on display. I quite like the running animation on the girl here, right? Because we're animating on what? 1, 2? Yeah, we're animating on 2s the whole time, which is like, that's a sort of classic cinematic level of animation to work with. And it is a very, very nicely done, like, full animation run from the character here that looks really nice. But one of the things I pinged on outside of, like, the run here, this little sequence here, right? As we cut from this fairly static shot, right, like with a pre-rendered background and the characters running in the foreground, we have the classic offset animation timings that I like to talk about so much, right? Like where characters move on different frames in order to make the frame look smoother. And then we get this, where all of a sudden we shift into... And you can see the way that they produced it, right? Like that there isn't actually a texture on the wall. There's like a static texture that's just sort of stuck on the background as a bit of simple, like, well, not simple, actually, very complicated line animation. This very, very elaborate character, like, punching into frame right in front, moving around this corner with, like, lots of dramatic foreshortening on those hands, like, really sort of emphasizing a technical quality. As our protagonist for the moment, we have this cross-cutting between her running out to see the race and then the racers themselves running. And it's hilariously over-animated. It's like she's just going around a corner, right? Like you kind of don't need to put that much into making the moment of her rounding the corner look dramatic, like even from a narrative perspective. But they're doing it because the whole point is there needs to be Sakuga. And when I say Sakuga, like, so a couple of people in chat sort of asking about it. Sakuga is... It's essentially... It's a slang term. It has a specific... It just means animation, functionally, as far as I remember. But it just means animation that looks technically stunning and impressive, right? Like, so Sakuga is... You know in an anime, when most of the time the characters are fairly static and nothing happens, but then we get to the end of the season and it's the big fight scene and all of a sudden the animation quality jumps up, like, 10 times in scale. That's Sakuga, right? Like, that's when we're putting the money shots on screen. We're making it look really good, right? We're making it look really cool when the characters are doing their power battle or whatever. That's Sakuga. Sakuga has then also been sort of communally expanded to mean not just, like, the big impressive battle scenes or the really impressive technical shots, but also animation that just feels good, that breathes really well, right? Like, so there are Sakuga of moments that are very quiet and, like, very sort of careful character acting moment, but most Sakuga that you'll see most of the time, it's the big, expressive, expansive, like, anime fight scenes and battle shots and things like that. But anyway, like, the entire opening sequence here is all about, like, making it look expensive, right? Like, making this look like we put a lot of money into this because Musume is a prestigious, like, AAA franchise, essentially. That seems to be the communication that they're going with here. And I'm not going to say that it doesn't look good. It looks good. Like, a lot of effort was put into every frame of this. The backgrounds especially are really nicely rendered and drawn. Like, I really do like the effect here on this crowd shot, for example. You can see that the animators, it's not that they drew a crowd and then blurred them. The animators went in and painted bokeh effect, right, on the crowd scene to make it look like they're doing, like, a camera shot with with like a bokeh effect and like a blur effect on it. And that's really genuinely very impressive. Like that's a really cool way to paint a background like that, to not use a digital effect, but like to actually paint the damn thing. So it does look very good. I will grant it. And I've seen that there's some interesting moments of character animation later as well, which I'm curious to get to. So 3, 2, 1, go. We'll talk about the character designs later. No worries. Okay, so there's definitely bits, like the shot that's tracking there is 3D. Like the tracking shot there. And they sometimes swap between like 3D models of the girls and 2D models. But they're doing it very smoothly. And here comes the Sakuga. This is the GIFs that get posted. One thing I do appreciate about some of the running scenes I've seen is that the girls do get to look fucking intense. Like, they get to look wild-eyed and, like, rageful and, like, really distorted in a way that I quite appreciate. And it's all full animation, that's another thing. Like, they have given the animators a lot of time to work with this. This is like the classic sports anime moment, right? Like, it's a thing like you get in most sports anime, is that moment when a character sees the sport being performed and it touches their heart and they're like, this is the thing I need to do with my life. Someone's a shonen protagonist. One of the things I'm interested in here. All right, I should mention also the horse girls are also idols. When they win a race, they have to perform a concert because of. Don't worry about it. See, now here's some good character animation I quite enjoy. That's another one, a way that Cygames have managed to really capture a big market, is to make the horse girls idols and pay a lot of money for high quality pop music production. And they're making bank on the music as well. And you can see they're setting up this signifier, right? Like the crystal that she threw and then caught. Like reaching out for a star, right? Or a dream that you throw into the future. One thing to notice is that all of the girls will have a hairstyle that covers where their human ears should be, and no matter how fast they run, or how high they jump, or what happens to them, that hair will never fly back in such a way that you could see where the human ears should be. Never, ever, under any circumstances, will they ever let you see where her human ears ought to be, because the character design can't support it. Oh, I like that. She turns into more of a horse when she goes silly. This too is Yuri. Okay, 3, 2, 1, pause. So, like I said, like it opens on a very, this is a shonen sports anime, like this, or a sports anime, period. Like this is the kind of thing that you've seen before, and it seems to take advantage of that, because like we get this sequence of like, I'm gonna run, then we get this musical sequence, right, where we just kind of run through the tropes, right? Like we're just sort of montaging our way past all of the usual setup work, right? Like here's the new student, she arrives at a new academy, she's meeting classmates, she's making friends. Oh, look, all these appealing character designs that are here also. And we're just sort of skipping past, she's training, she's like running her first races, she's doing really well, and now we get into the plot. And that's, again, like, from a scriptwriting perspective, that's a very good way to take advantage of, like, they clearly know, like, producing this thing, our audience are familiar with the tropes, right? Like, we can skip past all of the setup that it takes to get our character from, I want to join this thing as a career, into she's now racing at a reasonably high level, right? Which is sort of like zooming past that one, because the audience understands. Like, they see those little shots, they kind of get it, like, okay, cool, we can skip to the next part. And that's fairly efficient script writing and a good use of a montage, I think. I do also really like this fully, I don't know the extent to which, hang on, let me zoom in on this. This is also, this aesthetic is really, to me, mimicking 90s anime. There's something about the construction of the faces here that, to me, is like really sort of 90s anime coded. Like, it has a little bit of that retro vibe to it, except in matters, like, very many places in the line work, there's a sort of stubbliness and a roundness and an unevenness in some of the key art that I actually quite like as an expressive part of the character. One thing you get a lot with, like, moe anime nowadays, right? Like the sort of anime is like, oh, here's a bunch of cute girls doing cute things together kind of vibe. There's a lot of, because of the way that anime is produced, there's a lot of very heavily adhering to the model animation, right? Which is to say, anytime a character's face is on screen, it looks like it's like a 3D model almost. Like, it's plastic-like in the way that it is completely conforming to a specific model of what the character looks like. And it's only really usually in comedic moments that the characters break free from their model and distort and become interesting. One thing I've noticed about the construction of faces and characters, I guess because they just have the budget to sort of let the key animators go a little bit wild with it, is there's a lot more allowance for distortion in a lot of these shots, in the way that the characters are put together, where, like, their faces deform and distort in such a way as to give them a lot more life. And this is something I noticed as a difference from the Cinderella Grey anime as well, because that one was more on, like, a seasonal anime budget, a pretty high one, but a seasonal anime budget, and that definitely felt more constrained to the model than some of the shots are here. I really like this handshake sequence as well. It's very cute. Like the acting of it, right? This girl is so fucking excited that she goes L-shaped, basically. That's a very effective way to endear her to the audience as like a sort of shonen protagonist situation. Let's see, where were we? The other thing, right. I really appreciate this, for example, like, again, talking about going off model for comedy, right? That she turns into more of a horse when she sort of gets awkward and gets compliments. And there's a bunch of really nice effort on display here. You see again, they animated the shot of her doing that twice because they also animated it happening in the mirror and from a different angle. Like this is fully two sets of unique animation that are sort of matching each other. That's quietly very impressive. They even replicate the motion blurring, and they remember to flip it in the mirror so that it makes like that's really quite impressive. And like there's even secondary motion. You can see that on like her earrings. They even animated like secondary motion on it and like did full animation on the whole. That's really impressive. There's a lot of money on screen here. There really is. Just in the way that it seems like the animators and the producers on it have had as much time as they wanted to like really go hard on technical quality. But the thing I wanted to ping on, the thing I pinged on, pay attention to the shot compositions. Pay attention to the way that the camera is posed and the way that the camera treats the space in the anime. This shot, for example, they're really taking advantage of the fact that this is like a cinema widescreen format with like these really... What would that be on an actual camera? This would be like... That's not a long lens, that's a wide-angle lens, something like that, where they're really exaggerating the space, and they're doing it for the purpose of... She comes running out of the door, and we can get this gorgeous shot of her tracking down the hallway, which, again, this is actually a really well-done complex shot, because they manage the LOD really well. The level of detail, right? She, at this point, as she's running out the door, she's very, very stylized, right? Like, she's barely more than a bunch of little sort of shapes sort of bolted together with a bunch of color, doing a very simple gesture. And then as she moves closer and closer into the camera, you can see details just begin to spawn on her like a video game character. As she gets like more and more detailed, more and more well-drawn, you can see the shift here from that shape to that shape on her chest piece, right? And that here she has no fingers, now she has fingers. That's really difficult. Like, that's genuinely a really difficult thing to do in animation, to manage those level of detail transitions from shot to shot in a way that looks good. There's a lot of money on screen here. It's really, really pretty. There's a lot of technical quality. But yeah, like from just a structural perspective of script writing, I really do like just like, okay, we don't want to bother with the whole introducing all the characters and she goes to school and she has to learn the technical whatever. Skip to the bit where she's a racer already. I think that's very effective. And it was a pretty damn good song also, I will say. Anyway, 3, 2, 1, go. They are skimping a little bit on these crouch shots, though. Those are very static. Feels like they should they could probably have done a little bit more to make those feel dynamic. Could it be the legendary Sharingan? I like the play with shadows there. Like, you can see the way that she has a lot of shadow play on her, but our protagonist doesn't. Oh, that's really good. This too is Yuri. Jungle Bucket? Pocket makes more sense. Three, two, one. Pause. We gotta talk about that bit. This reminds me certainly of some of the scenes in Cinderella Grey. Like the two characters who don't really have a relationship with each other, but they're racing against each other. We need to establish a dynamic and some enmity, or like a reason for them to like get riled up to race each other. So you get this like walking down the hallway to the racetrack scene. They do that a bunch in the Cinderella Grey anime. It seems to be the format that they like, because they have to juggle so many fucking characters. That's the thing I'm curious about with this movie is Cinderella Grey, like I said, at the latter half of that season, got choked to death with so many fucking horse girls, right? That the series had to introduce so they could be sold in banners on the gacha mechanic thing. I'm wondering how many of them are in this movie, and how they're gonna balance trying to introduce and make enough of them compelling for people to spend money on. Because this scene certainly seems to be, they would be one of the tools in the toolbox, right? Like, this is one of the ways that we can introduce one of the interesting, fun horse girls for people to spend money on, is by having, like, this rivalry shot. And I really do like the way that they're introducing her. First of all, that's a very wide-eyed stare right forward, right? Like, she's immediately introduced as a little bit creepy, and then throughout the sequence, we get this reverse shot with our hero, and then our mysterious new sort of adversary. And like there's this distinct difference in the way that they're framed by the camera, right? That our hero is constantly in the light. Like, literally, there's no light play, there's no anything happening over her, but then our mysterious, creepy antagonist here, oh, they're playing with the shadow with her, right? Like, you get this whole, like, shadows playing on the wall, shadows passing over her face. And it's a nice contrasting framing to make the two characters feel like have a distinct vibe and energy from one another. This is also, I guess, where we have to talk a little bit about the character designs of these characters, because another part of it, like I said, these are horse girls, so they're racers, but also they're idols, which means they perform concerts, which means when they go to race in their idol performance costumes. They're racing silks, I guess, as they call them. And because they are gacha characters, right? Like, this is one of the ways that the gacha character design aesthetic of the show is like, and of the games, to me, like, as a character designer, immediately I go, this looks like the least convenient and practical racing gear I have ever seen in my life. That's a huge fucking coat. That is so much air resistance. Like, that's just gonna drag you back so incredibly bad. That's a huge ass sweater. And why on earth would you race in high heels, right? Like, on dirt. Why would you race in high heels on dirt? The answer is because these are gacha character designs, which is to say, they need to all be incredibly distinct from each other. They need to all have, like, their own bespoke vibe and, like, aesthetic so that they're extremely recognizable. And they all need to be, like, in some way maximally appealing, right? Like, that could be because the outfit is really cute and colorful. That could be because they represent some kind of archetype. We've got like a science freak thing going on here with the lab coat and like the vials of, I guess, performance enhancing drugs. Is that allowed? Kind of like, it's all about like making the character like immediately identifiable just from their costume. And that's like the gacha aesthetic crashing into the sort of putative reality of what we're doing, which is like, that's the dumbest thing you could possibly race in. Why would you race in that? Why wouldn't you wear like a spandex that cuts down on wind resistance and like maybe like clenches tight around your muscles to support them or support your joints, or like elbow protectors, fucking whatever? Well, because it's a gacha game. And I think one of the reasons why Uma Musume gets away with it is because like they don't explain jack shit. Right, like they have the whole IP has this sort of oppositionally defiant thing of like, yeah, there are horse girls, and we're not going to explain it to you. Like, there's girls who are horses, and they just exist, and they just want to race because of they are horses. That is why they want to do that, and half of the world's economy revolves around that, and also they are idols, and also half of our city's infrastructure is designed to accommodate horse girls, and fuck you, don't worry about it. And I think because it has that attitude towards it, right, like with these completely absurd, bizarre, freaky world-building elements introduced into the story and the narrative. Like, once you get to the part where the horse girls are racing in the dumbest outfits humanly possible for the purposes of racing, you kind of go, yeah, okay, sure, why not? Like, why not? Might as well. At this point, why not? Like, okay, like, this might as well happen. The absurdity at some point, like, it sort of, it creates this litmus test, right? Where either you are capable of getting over it, right? Like, either you're capable of saying, okay, this is dumb, this is weird and out there, it doesn't make any fucking sense, but fuck it, I'm here to watch the cute horse girls racing and then perform a catchy pop song. Whatever. I will suspend my disbelief for the purposes of just being pleased and being entertained, right? Or else you're sometimes maybe a little bit more like me, where I kind of go, this is stupid. These character designs aren't telling the character's story. This is dumb. What the hell? This doesn't make any sense. And I'm going to complain about it. But it is that thing of, like, this is one of the hesitancies I have with criticizing gacha character design, is like, yeah, I can criticize it. Like, I can talk about how the aesthetic design of gacha and the aesthetic limitations of gacha run directly counter to the kinds of stories that they're trying to tell using the characters, right? Like, how it trips on its own aesthetic conceit, and is essentially a hindrance to its storytelling. But there's an extent to which that's like, yeah, but that's missing the point, because the character designs are not designed to tell stories. They're not designed to be like compelling parts of the world building. The character designs are designed to sell character designs, to look really cool and flashy and look really nice in JPEGs and like in-game skins, and like that commercial objective overrides everything else. And even if the people doing the gacha games wanted to change that, they couldn't. Like, literally, their business model does not allow for that to happen. This is the thing that's happening with League of Legends ever since they've introduced the gacha thing into the game, right? Like, because, like, there is this inbuilt institutional pressure into the very concept of gacha, into the very model of it as an approach to character design, that forces a level of blandness, right? Like, that forces a level of everything must be maximally appealing, everything must look super cool, everything must look flashy, everything must look like with all of the settings turned up to 11, because of that's how you get the eyeballs, right? Like, that's how you get the money. And it's an interestingly corrosive thing, right? One of the things I will give them credit for on Musume is that despite the limitations of it is gacha, right? Like, it's gacha, all of the costumes have to be outrageously distinct and like complete, like, colorful and bright and like, or distinct from each other, have like a very strong visual concept. It sort of makes a little bit more sense with something like horse racing, to the extent that, like, race horses as a thing are like in horse racing, there isn't really distinct character design so much. Like, the jockeys wear the most efficient form of, like, spandex for reducing air resistance, right? Like, it's a very utilitarian thing, but the horses of horse racing, which, by the way, I believe all of the characters in Musume, I think all of them are named for real racehorses and have bits in their character design, like parts of how their hair is put together, like little design details in them will be designed to sort of reference how the horse looks in real life in bits and pieces. I can't tell you exactly where that is in a Jungle Bucket here. Jungle Pocket. I can't tell you exactly where those references are in these characters, because I don't know enough about horse racing, and I don't care to learn about horse racing specifically, but it is there. I will give them credit that, like, it feels like it makes a little bit more sense in terms of if this is meant to be like a celebrity thing, right? Like, where part of what they're racing on is their personality, right? Like, it's not just about pure athleticism. There's this pop star element to it as well. It sort of feels a little bit more congruent with the internal logic of the world that they are in. It's just, I do wish at some point they would explain why someone decided that the horse girl should also be an idol and perform a concert. Like, they never explain it in the fucking Cinderella Grey anime. I haven't checked the wiki for whether there's an explanation for it. I just kind of want them to say it in the movie, like to have a character justify it out loud to someone and be like, well, obviously you have to perform a concert because of this reason and that one. It's weird. Anyway, what I wanted to talk about, the thing I actually stopped us for in the first place, was this lovely little comedy bit. And the way that Jungle Pocket gets animated. It kind of reminds me of, what's that anime? With the 7 twins, like the septuplets thing. Or the whole, like, the whole sibling group of little guys who all look identical to each other. Some aspects of how they're animated sort of reminds me a little bit of that. And it is very funny to see the aesthetic shift from highly rendered sort of anime movie, and now we shift fully into some cartooning that looks straight out of like the 80s almost in its approach to like cartooning and caricaturing the character. Like, it really gets into a cartooning mode that I really like. Yeah, like, this is fully on some 90s shit, actually. It's like OVA-esque. But then with the fucking Garfield eyes? Oh, an animator was having a lot of fun with this. And by the way, like, when you're animating a character doing something like this, we talked about this thing about, like, staying on model or going off model. When you're animating a character going through some shit like this, right, like with their body doing this shit, it is actually not trivial to make the character remain recognizable. Like, you get away with a lot with just keeping the colors consistent, things like that, but there are elements of, like, managing the model that you do have to pay attention to and take care of to make the character still feel like the character. Oh, this is really cool. See, I wasn't really that interested in the Sakuga shots that I saw of, like, the horse girls activating their superpowers or whatever, but I did see some GIFs of these little comedy moments from this movie as well, and that was part of what prompted me to, like, actually want to take a look at it. Because that's some really fun comedy animation. Like, there's some Butchie the Rock in here as well, I think. Like, the approach that they took in that anime to hyper-distorting characters in moments of, like, emotional stress. Oh, this is really appealing. It's also a little over-animated. Especially, like, this next shot. Again, it's that thing of, like, the money is on screen, right? There's an extent to which the shot, like, with this Dutch angle, with this extreme close-up, and, like, this very heavy character animation, again, this is very visually designing for maximal impact, right? Like, making it look expensive. Oh, cool doubling. Making it look expensive on screen by having fancier camera angles. Same thing with this shot here, as Agnes Tachyon, what a hell of a name, rises into this, like, fisheye lens effect with hella intensity. Like, there's definitely over-animation happening in many of the shots in this movie. Not in the way that's, like, destructive to it, but in a way that's, like, I would find maybe a little distracting in the cinema. Anyway, let's see what happens next. 3, 2, 1, go. Again, some curiously static background characters. Those far background models were definitely 3D, I think. Fancy point of view shot. It's a 3D tracking shot, and they're animating 2D a lot into it. That's quite nice. Oh, interesting absence of music at this point. That's a cool shot. Oh, now the background crowds are active. That was an interesting scene. I liked the total absence of music. That's the kind of scene you would usually score with like some kind of dramatic something something, right? Again, that character design becoming more horse-like. That is very appealing. Oh, lemonade because of lemons. You see, that's quite good. Oh, the costumes really do get out there. Again, gorgeous fucking background work. Those look like 3D models on the TV. Interesting mix of 2D and 3D. What an interesting set of cuts there. Oh, Jesus. Oh, now we're hitting the Sakuga buttons, huh? And then we turn it off again, interestingly. Horse Super Saiyan. Oh, that fucks. That's good. Go Beyond Plus Ultra. Okay. 3, 2, 1, pause. I'm still fascinated by the paucity of music. That there's so little score in this movie that we very much rely on like sort of diegetic sounds and just dialogue to get so much of it across. That's interesting. And certainly for a movie like this, they need to have good running animation, and they really do. Like when they really turn it up on the runners, there's like fantastic pumping on the arms, like that really heavy forward lean. And these fancy point of view shots. Oh yeah, by the way, here's another world building detail. All the horse girls, they have horseshoes on the bottom of their normal shoes. Essentially like cleats to run with, which is another one of those little world building details that they just sort of like, yeah, no, that's rational and normal. We just do that. That makes sense for people with human feet. Oh, that's some really effective distortion lines on that little... And good pacing on it as well. Like we get this, you can see the sort of the tension and snap, right? We get the tension of the rock is on screen, and it just sort of stays hovering in the air without really moving that much until snap. And then we get another moment of like building tension, where we're sort of slow-moing, bullet timing it, and then snap. And again, you can see these like expensive shots, right? Like these very fancy, deep into the frame of the camera, like heavy on the foreshortening dramatic shots. And God, the key animators are having some fucking fun with it. This is part of what makes, like, when Uma Musume turns, this is one thing I do like about the over-elaborate costumes on these characters, is when the animators are told, okay, let the Sakuga go, like, fucking go ham with it, they get to, like, really fucking do some shit with those ridiculous costumes. And you can see how far they're distorting her out of the model here, right? Like, the arms, like, she's got fucking Helsing arms right now. Like, she's fucking Alucard. and like almost kind of brutish hands a little bit because of the way that they're rendered. Like that heavy sort of pencil style around the rendering of, like, you can even see it here that they've left a lot of the sketch lines in from like the gesture drawing that informs the final pose. And like, fucking hell, just look at the physical action of that, man. That's a heavy fucking run. And look how much she's distorting out of model, like the little crown bit on her head there, and but it's so kinetic. What a fantastic run animation. Like, you can feel the pump and the trod in the earth there. And then after all of that Sakuga, we get this shot here where I don't know, man. That's a little bit less impressive. And of like, who cares? Like, it's all the way back there, right? So who cares? But that, as running animation goes, that's a lot less dramatic and impressive, I will say. That's more like and that's one thing that also has fascinated me watching this movie so far, is so many times so much of what's on display is clearly so fucking expensive, but then there's the areas where they cut corners that seem sometimes kind of random and unmotivated. Like, I've commented on the static crowds before, but then there's some shots where the crowd isn't static, and it seems kind of random which ones it is. Which, like, that might just come down to, like, the production conditions of how this thing was made. Like, it might have been split between multiple studios handling different shots and things like that. I do very much like this tracking shot. Like, we're tracking... The horse girls themselves still seem to be, like, these very basic... maybe not 3D models, actually. They might be 3D models, or they might be 2D animated. Like, but still, like, low resolution, low level of detail in the background. But we're doing, like, this rapid swooping shot from inside the crowd, right? Where the camera, like, tracks. And I do like, you can occasionally see, like, there's horse girls in amongst the regular folks. And differential animation timing. Like, that dramatic tracking swoop was really cool. And then we get into whatever the fuck it is that she does when she activates her superpowers. And they just let that shit fly. This feels very Kill La Kill to me, actually. There's definitely elements in there of, like, old Gainax modern trigger. In the approach to motion. Still animating on 2s, but, like, look at the differential animation timing on objects and things in the shot. They're really playing with that to create, like, depth of action. And I like the physical gesture of the champion here. Look at that tensed up hand, right? Like that, like, absolutely crunching the knuckles. You can see just the buildup of, like, muscle tension and anger. Like, it's an angry gesture. Explosion! Oh, that is fucking good Sakuga. That's fucking hype. Like, the dramatic lighting from below. Again, they're doing these camera shots where, like, deliberately they're pushing in really close on things. And again, they do the classic, this is the classic anime motion aesthetic, right? Where we're building up tension, we're building up tension, we're building up tension, and then snap, right? Like, then we just do that. And it's so effective. Like, there's a reason this shit is so fucking hype. And here, interestingly, we're not, like, here we're doing a 3D tracking shot, right? Like, the background, all of that stuff, like, where they're composited in, you can kind of see that they're just sort of 2D objects that are rendered on top of, like, a bit of 3D animation. But then we swap to here, and, like, this is all hand animated, like, POV tracking shot running down. This is where the fucking money gets put on display. And again, look at the fucking distortions on the running animation here. How long their arms get to be, how extreme their key poses get to be, right? Like, how much they swing, how much they fuck the model up to really communicate just the sheer rawness of what they're doing. Lots of fun stuff happening with, like, leaving pencil streaks. And that's interesting. Over, like, a digital, like, I feel like if they maybe had watercolored that shit, that would have been extra hype, but who cares? Like, this dark, heavy rendering on the characters. And this is something I do appreciate, like, about, like, a lot of the clips I've seen, is when they turn on the Sakuga button and when the horse girls are, like, using whatever their fucking superpowers are, they get to look intense, right? Like, they are not, this is not in the style of, like, Sailor Moon, right? Like, Sailor Moon. It's not a magical girl thing where in the moment when the character activates their power, they become, like, the most beautiful, the most graceful, the most, like, this is physical action. And I appreciate that there's a focus put in the animation on, no, these people are fucking running for their fucking lives. This is physically intense. This is exhausting, right? Like, this is anger and aggression and adrenaline. This is pushing your body beyond its physical limits. So, like, fucking slobber running down the side of her mouth, right? Sweat pouring out of every bit of them, and just the heaviness of the physical action of the run, the wildness of just how much they throw that hair around, almost to the point, again, they can't throw her hair back enough that you could see her ears, but they kind of use that here to give her something that looks more like a lion's mane almost in motion, which is very fucking cool. Right? Again, yelling, screaming, like stretching the neck forward. It looks painful, right? It looks desperate almost. It's very aggressive and violent. And then we turn the Sakuga off. Whoop! Then it's just like a little set of 3D models kind of going across the finish line, seeming to move much slower than the action we just saw. And this is fully a fucking All Might. Like, they grabbed that straight out of My Hero Academia. But man, if an anime, I really appreciate that. This is one thing about gacha I've talked about before. So much gacha is predicated on constant prettiness, right? Like, everything must be pretty all the time. Everything must be beautiful all the time. I appreciate the roughness of this shit. That she's, like, stepping down so hard it snaps the bands. You can see, like, the fucking musculature in the back of her leg. Everything being rendered and drawn, like, in the roughest possible way. I appreciate that a lot. I think that's genuinely really fucking cool. That is really cool. That is very good Sakuga. I like the intensity of it a lot. Anyway, 3, 2, 1, go. We've got a lot more movie to get through. She's such a shonen protagonist. Clearly deliberately. Like, I think she uses ore as a personal pronoun as well, which is like the masculine. Fully the Goku of the show. Ooh, that's fancy tracking shots. And again, like I said, there's a whole fucking cycling lane just for horse girls. And again, the background work is genuinely fucking gorgeous in so many places. Like, that definitely is generic anime. What the fuck was happening with that giant head back there? A mascot costume, I guess? U equals ma squared? Oh, that's general relativity in this world. Einstein named the fundamental constants of motion after horse girls. I don't know. Like, I know it's the fuck. U equals ma2. Oh my god. That has no right to be that funny. Is she injured? That's interesting. Ooh, is that rotoscoped? That's really cool. Is she okay back there? Okay, that's maybe a little much. That's maybe a little much. Now kiss. Oh, I have to go back and talk about some of that scene, but ha 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 ha. 3, 2, 1, pause. this like I don't know about you, but this is usually what I do with my friends. We sort of stare at each other and go this is that was oh man. Let's see, where did that scene start? Again, it's that matter of the expense being put on screen, right? Like the shot choices that are made here in so many of these scenes, like they seem to be made very much just like, again, for the purpose of impact. It's not quite Michael Bayesian, but there's little glimmers of that aesthetic approach in there. Where, like, shots and camera motion seem to be chosen to be specific, like, especially in this little bit here. Right? These are, like, a bunch of really sort of elaborate shots that are strung together. It's for dramatic purposes, right? Like, it's to heighten the impact of the action that she takes, right? Like, to break through the wall of indifference from Tachyon here. So there's a dramatic justification for it. It's just, again, it's that thing of, like, deliberately doing the absolute most. Because, again, the budget has to be on screen. It has to look fancy, right? So we're picking the high-impact option over the low-impact option a lot of the time. And sometimes it's to the detriment of the thing. I do like the extreme distortions of the character into like weirdness. I do think for this scene, for this particular bit, it goes on for way too long. Like, distorting the character that extremely works as like a short little gesture. I don't think it works when it's going on for that fucking long uninterrupted. It's funny, and I do like that they're willing to distort the character so heavily. But that one was maybe a little bit much. But, like, for this shot, for example, I really like the willingness to make the characters just a little bit ugly a lot of the time, right? Like, that we're not locked in Moe mode, right? Like, that we're not locked to the characters must have their huge, pretty eyes, and they must have their dainty, tiny little mouths at all times. I like that. Like, it's a very expressive character animation style for a lot of these shots. Like, the way that she's walking into the room here. And then this, it looks like a rotoscoped shot to me almost. Like, something, or at least something that they must have used reference for, because that's a really nicely tracked saunter through the room. And again, this is one of those things that's like, to me, is also Sakuga, because this is really difficult. It's really difficult to like, one of the things that's really difficult about animating a shot like this, when, like, from a top-down perspective, we've got kind of a wide-angle lens thing going on, like a really strong perspective in the room. Managing scale, like having the character look the right size as she's moving through this shot and be scaled correctly. Like, this is why I would assume that they're using a lot of either reference or directly rotoscoping here, because managing the character's size so that she feels scaled to her environment while walking through it so smoothly, that's really, really hard. And it's really well managed along with the LOD. And I do, again, from an animation perspective, good difference between the two characters. Just the way they enter the space, right? That jungle pocket, she's sauntering in. She's casual. She's just like, oh, so this is where you live. Like, sauntering in, twirling around, looking around the place, taking up space, being confident. And then her friend walks in, very politely closes the door behind her, and has, like, this body language like a timid little mouse, sort of tiptoeing her way across the floor. and then getting terrified when she notices the gloomy girl sitting on the couch. That's quite good. Like, that's good character animation. It's nice to see whether they're paying attention to how does the character relate to the space that they're in. And like one character is confident, easy, and kind of swaggering, and the other is timid in a way that's like very much on display. Also, this is flirting. Just this is flirting. There's no other way to describe this than flirting. I'm sorry. Slightly toxic flirting, but nonetheless. And again, this thing about high impact shots, right? Like that we have this slightly Michael Bayesian thing when Tachyon responds to the challenge, right? Like we're pushing in real close, we're doing a little bit of a fisheye lens effect. We're really hamming it up. We're choosing this low angle shot, this really difficult one that's very technical to animate for her, and she's putting her feet down, she's about to get up. It's again that thing about like choosing the most dramatic shot on purpose. I really like the way the animator is handling her tail here. The swoop and like the way it falls and follows her motion, the secondary action on that, that's really good. Ooh. Okay, let's keep going. 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, so she's injured. She only has so many races left to run. You can really see how they're making sure to introduce a new horse girl and a new horse girl and a new horse girl. A new cute design. Again, I don't know how many of these you can actually sort of roll for in the app. Goku horse. You must be able to afford a better webcam than that. Oh yeah, we're introducing so many horse girls. It's interesting. Spreadsheet nerd. Okay, no blood on her hands, so she doesn't have I'm gonna fucking die disease. But it's definitely like a gloomy girl thing, right? Yeah, I have asthma too, girl. I've been there. It is interesting. Like, so far, the movie is managing to hold on to a central character and like a central quest, right? Like, she wants to race against Science Girl and beat her somehow. And then, like, the movie is slotting in as many other horse girls as it possibly can as cameos. Yet unsolvable mystery. What a good justification for not explaining anything. She would fit in so well with the Adeptus Mechanicus. Following a trail. That's interesting. Right, the trail of her own potential future self. I see. Oh dear. That seems bad. Hey, chat, is it good when your legs explode when you're a racer? Again, that peculiar difference in when the crowd gets to be animated versus not. Girl, you should go to the hospital, maybe. Hey, is this shot telling us that she's kind of lonely in her ambition, maybe? I don't know. I'm making fun, but it's effectively chosen. It's again that thing of choosing the highest impact version of everything, right? Again, some really nice work in the background here. I think the thing that comes to mind most about this movie, watching it, is inconsistency. another really like high effort shot that maybe isn't necessary with the light playing across the characters. One character in shadow, the other on out in the light, capable of moving forward. The visual language is clear. Okay, 3, 2, 1, pause. This is where, like, now we're starting to get into. This is one of the narrative problems I have with Cinderella Grey as well, or Grey Cinderella, which however way around that name goes. You can kind of see like that thing of like, shit, we want to get like these narrative beats and these like motivations and things. We want to get them in there, but they're just. It feels like there's not really room for it, right? So this whole scene here, right? Like this whole sequence here, it's all about sort of establishing. Now we're putting some backstory on the trainer. We're putting some backstory and some motivation on like the friend character, the definitely not girlfriend character. And there's this like handover of, and I think this is like this is a central mechanic in the game. It's a thing of like inheriting the dreams of a previous generation, which is something to do with you train up a character and you get them to a certain level and then they have to retire, and so you entrust their dream to a new one and that gives them a stat boost and then you use that. Like it's a sort of building up the stats of the characters mechanic where you entrust their dreams to the future sort of deal. Not 100% sure how it works, but that seems to be what like this scene is gesturing at, right? Like that's right, like that we have this character who's like standing in shadow, right, like being left behind as they entrust their dream to someone else who's walking forward into the light, right, ready to seize the future. But it's the thing of like, she has not really been a character in the movie so far, right? Like so far she's just kind of been this supporting secondary character without any. Like, we don't really get an establishment of their relationship, where they come from, why they feel the way that they do about each other, like why this is the person that she chose or whatever. And now, sort of 30 minutes into the movie, we kind of have like one scene where it's like, I'm going to entrust you with my most important dream, person whose relationship we haven't had time to actually establish a dynamic or why we're together or whatever, because I've not had any screen time in the movie so far. But now we need to have like a scene where I'm emotionally entrusting you with my dream of a future kind of vibe. And it's a little bit same thing in Cinderella Grey, right? Like they had this need to introduce and sketch out in like the vaguest terms with like very broad brushstrokes, sketch out what's the motivation of this character, why is this character invested in running, what is their deal as a character, like who is this character, what's their deal, why should you engage with them. Here's one scene. You get a scene where it's like, here's my backstory. I'm gonna rattle it off real quick so that you can get invested in me, and then sort of move on from that because there's another character with another backstory or motivation or a thing. And this is where we're sort of like, okay, I guess the trainer's ambitions are now also So she wants to be the strongest, and then also the trainer's ambitions to be a racer, a sort of like derby trainer thing, to have that title. That's important. But we haven't had time to really establish a relationship between like the trainer and her either, so we kind of have to just no, actually him and me, father-daughter thing, we're really close. I really wanted to, it's just yeah, sure, this is very important. I'm just gonna tell you this real quick so we can establish emotional stakes for a scene and like create like it's like another reason for her to move forward and win. And it's a little messy, right? Which is the thing that happens when you have like a huge cast of characters and you want to showcase and give screen time to as many of them as possible, right? It's a little messy. It's a little inconsistent. Also, one thing we should probably mention. Uma Musume is based on horse racing, right? On horse derbies. When a racehorse can't run anymore, one of two things is likely to happen. Number one, the horse gets fucking killed on the spot. No mercy. No, it just dead horse. Gun to the forehead, dead horse. It is brutal. It's cruel. Horses are not often not really given a lot of chance to recover, and they are pushed racehorses are pushed beyond what their limits theoretically should be to run as fast as inhumanly possible, and they get injured a lot. And a lot of them get injured in a way that can't be recovered from, and then they get fucking murdered. Then they get killed. It's a brutal. It's horse racing as a sport is a lot of animal abuse in there, kind of a lot. The other thing that can happen is that the horse is like, okay, you can't run anymore, but we can probably breed you. So we'll patch you up enough, and then you can go and be a breeding stock and maybe live a full life if you're lucky. But it should be noted that this was in Cinderella Grey as well, that we had these characters who were horse girls, like, oh, I took a bad injury and now I can't run anymore, but I'm still happy and I get to live a life and I'm fulfilling because I'm also technically a human being. With horse racing, if a horse can't run, it's like, well, they have to be very lucky or else they are glue. There's a lot of animal abuse in the horse racing industry, which is something that, and I bring that up because that's something that the Uma Musume franchise just does not engage with, right? That's just not a part of how we're doing this adaptation of the concept of horse racing, but we're not adapting that part. We're not adapting the part where living creatures are literally used as beasts of burden and pushed beyond what they should be pushed towards and abused into accepting horrible living conditions until they either are killed or are run so ragged and so broken that they live with terrifying pain for the rest of their lives. The injuries that racehorses get in real life are horrifying. And the conditions, and I don't know exactly what the conditions are in the Japanese horse racing industry. Also, hopefully that is something that has progressed over the past many years. I don't know, but the stories that you hear, the history of horse racing as a sport and as a gambling enterprise it's grim. It's grim, and it's not usually a thing of oh, well, retire, you have a trophy, have a good time, we'll give you healthcare. It's pistol to the forehead, goodbye. And I bring it up because clearly with Tachyon, they're engaging with the idea of the damage that trying to push your body so hard can do to you, and the emotional drama of her racing even though maybe she fucking shouldn't because she has I don't know how many compound fractures in her foot or whatever. But they're not going to engage with the bit of just how grim it can get for real horses when they get injured, which okay, fair enough, that would probably bring the tone down, but it's one of those critical things you have to keep in mind when you watch an anime like this. Is yeah, in real horse racing it's not quite so gentle as that on the bodies of the injured racers. Anyway, 3, 2, 1, go. Yeah, this interesting inconsistency a lot of the time. They cut to some 3D shots that look kinda low rent occasionally. Okay, I'm sorry, but 3, 2, 1, pause. I just, I just, little details I do like. Little things like, oh, she has earmuffs on her horse ears that are like, that's very cute. There are again little world building details. For a second, like in passing, I thought maybe, oh, these were like headphones for her or whatever. Clearly not, but it's just little details like that. I can't help but find them charming. Like the ways in which they occasionally think about, like, okay, what kinds of accessories would someone have if they had horse ears for ears for some reason? Anyway, 3, 2, 1, go. Shit, said something that psyched her out, huh? Yeah, this 3D shot is kind of low rent. Oof, nice. That was a nice little swooping shot to track the motion. Ooh, there's a lot of good running animation there. So they're setting up for some kind of dramatic twist here. The fucking airplane noise, that's good. Oh, they're really pushing. Again, I appreciate that they get to look ugly in moments of like extreme emotional push. I really do appreciate that. Hey, I wonder if her leg is okay. They really are animating her like a shonen protagonist. Like, they really are doing it. It's effective. It's nice use of her ears as well in that moment when she realizes something's wrong, that the ears just flop a little bit. The dramatic lighting. Again, these like always choosing these very high impact aesthetic modes. And it supports the melodrama of it all, right? Ooh, nice animation on that little cup. Consummated your relationship? Yeah. I like the toxicity of this. Melodrama. My. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Pause. This little moment. I do appreciate that. I do appreciate using the horse ears for the mood. I wish they did that more. Like, really expressively use the horse ears to indicate the mood of the characters. Because that's a fun thing to do. This whole sequence is so... it's shot like a horror movie almost, right? It's like, it's shot in, like, just with the black and red, like, heavy shadows, the blood all over everything, the drama, the extremely bright light. I wanted to look at the cups, though. Just because that's a really, like, with the water pouring in and then, like, the sugar cubes slowly sinking and, like, displacing in the water, that's a really impressive bit of animation. Again, it's that level of inconsistency, right? Like, where some places they cut so many corners, and, like, especially with crowd shots, and, like, occasionally they use these kind of cheap-looking 3D shots and 3D effects, and then sometimes they do a shot of some sugar cubes sinking into tea that is just unreasonably technically complex as a piece of animation. It's genuinely a little funny. Because as far as I can tell, like, there's line wobble. Right? Like, there's that little bit of inconsistency. These sugar cubes are fucking hand animated, man. They hand animated these sugar cubes. Like, that would have been the kind of thing you would use 3D for, because it's like geometric objects being manipulated, like and bumping against each other. This is the kind of shot you use 3D for. They probably rotoscoped it if they were smart, but the fact that they seem to have hand animated this bit, and then other shots of, like, a bunch of girls running down a track is like some fairly cheap looking 3D with some really low resolution models and a fairly unimpressive set of running animations. It's so inconsistent and odd. The bits that are, like, really high effort and the bits that aren't. But the bits they do focus on, right? This entire scene is... I mean, it's excessive. It's really, really, really pushing, right, for this extreme acting performance from Pukke. Like, contrasted against, like, the affected lack of affect from Tachyon. Again, this seems to be a fucking hand animated shot, as far as I can tell, with the tea being spilled and jostled. It's a really technically impressive shot, this one. The point of view shot, like, matching the movement to, like, the motion of this 3D camera. That is really impressive. As drama, this is also like it's arch, it's very operatic, it's excessive, right? Like it is definitely playing it up beyond what's like emotionally reasonable in the moment, especially because we haven't had that much time for the two of them to build up this kind of intensity. This feels like structurally this feels like the kind of like all is lost moment, or like a real dark night of the soul for our protagonist, right? Because she's had this rival and her whole thing has been like, I'm gonna fucking beat you. You are the stepping stone. You are the thing I must overcome in order to move on. And now like it's an emotional betrayal, right? Like essentially it's shot like a horror movie, but it's also acted like essentially Poke is accusing Tachyon of cheating on her, right? Like that's the emotional valence, is that Tachyon is betraying their relationship, right? You promised to be faithful to me, you promised to be faithful to my dream, and now I come here and I find you in bed with this hussy named Retirement. Like, how could you do this to me? I thought we had something. And it's very archly drawn, right? Like it's very, very melodramatic, it's very operatic, it's very characters jumping into their biggest feelings, right? And their most extreme performance of those feelings. But god damn it, if this is not, you can make some there's some hella toxic Yuri fanfics in this. Like there really is, like there's a toxic Yuri dynamic here that would be very compelling if the movie builds it out a little bit more. I don't know if it will, but I'm sure the fanfiction writers, like, because this is gesturing at so much emotional intensity, you can play with that. You can play with that a lot. Here's another very impressive shot. That slow, sensual play of the hand across the little ferns or whatever these things are. There's an animator who had a lot of fun with that. And it's a nice bit of object work also. Very Gladiator. I am Decimus Maximus. It would be cool if they had a fucking Uma Musume based. Will they do that at some point? Like fucking an Uma Musume based on Decimus Maximus from Gladiator? That would be cool. Voiced by Russell Crowe. I would wail for that, Cygames. I would wail for that in an instant. The other part of the drama, of course, right? And this is something I quite like about the visual storytelling and the cinematography here, right? We saw this thing, right? This crystal is representative of like the dream, right? Of Pock's dream of like becoming the best runner and joining the race and doing all that. I like that Tachyon has hung that in her window, right? I like that that's present as a storytelling element of the scene. Where on the one hand, Tachyon is breaking their relationship, right? Like saying, yeah, no, fuck you, this doesn't matter to me. But then on the other hand, you have this visual evidence that they share something, right? That they have that object that connects them thematically to one another. And whether that specifically is a thing of connection with her or it's a connection with the shared dream, because that seems to be the valence of what Tachyon is doing here. Is like, I can't run any further. I have pushed myself as far as I'm willing to do. I now entrust it to the next generation. Again, that Uma Musume thing of entrusting your dream to the next generation. I entrust it to you to go further than I could, right? That seems to be the valence of it, where part of the reason why she's being so emotionally dead about it and like refusing to engage on an emotional level is part of cope, right? Is like, you get that here, right? In this scene where she's swinging her legs carelessly and then the shoe comes off the injured foot. And then we get this shot of her looking profoundly lonely, right? You get this sense of like, okay, there is actually an emotional thing here. Like this is hurting her. She is lonely in it. She's just incapable of expressing it. And she's incapable of asking for like help or solidarity for it. So all she can do is like retreat into scientist persona. That seems to be the what they're gesturing at here, is that Tachyon has a deeper inner emotional life that she's repressing underneath her science persona. And she's like intentionally pushing Poke away as a way to like break this relationship off because it's too painful to try and keep it going. I can't be your rival anymore, right? I cannot consummate our relationship. I can't fulfill the terms of our rivalry. So I'm gonna push you away in like the meanest, cruelest way possible to spare you, right? That seems to be what they're sort of going for. And again, lots of lovely toxic Yuri could be written about that. I would want for it to be explored a bit more, but I don't know if this movie's going to do that, because I suspect that the movie is going to start introducing another character for our hero to pick as their rival or whatever. But I guess we'll see. 3, 2, 1, go. Jesus Christ, holy fuck. Ooh, that's pretty. God, I love a well-animated 2D tracking shot. I understand why productions use 3D most of the time, but when it's hand-drawn, ooh. What kind of vehicle even has a tire that big? You see, the shoes are a synecdoche for the state of her dream, right? Like, she herself is emotionally frayed, therefore the shoes are. So she quit raising before they put the gun to her head. And he gives the dream back to her, right? Like, good use of objects. Ooh, nice matching cut. And now she walks a little more alone. Yeah. I like the watercolor backgrounds here. Also, kind of wish we got more scenes where their relationship was established. Nice use of the ears. Yeah, the movie is trying to sort of emotionally move on this theme, right? Like this theme of entrusting to the future. Now the question is, how are they establishing like a new dramatic climax for the second half then? There's one of those cheap 3D shots. Looks very much like a shot from the game itself, and then we transition into like the nice animation. Oh no, that's rough. Oh, that's not very good. Oh no, I'm sorry. 3, 2, 1, pause. No. I'm sorry. That was it's one thing to use it for like these very long shots where you don't need the character. Like I said, inconsistency really is the name of the game with this movie. But that straight up just looks like she's floating. Ooh, that's not. Oh, that's not very good. Because like when you have these very low level of detail, copy pasted character models that are all like, you can also tell the characters are completely recycling exactly the same run cycle. Right? It's a bunch of copy pasted models with exactly the same animation copy pasted into them, moving in perfect sync with each other without like really that offset. And the way that she like leans in here and she just kind of glides from left to right like that, and there's that weird jump right here where she just kind of like zoop. Oh man, that's rough, man. That's really rough. Interesting. Again, that question of where do they put the money? They definitely didn't put it here. Some of these 3D shots are quite dire. And then they transition into these absolutely fucking mind-blowing Sakuga shots of like the actual running with the actual animation. It's funny. It's interesting. I did not expect the movie to be this inconsistent. Like, I thought it would be in the same way that seasonal anime tends to be, that most of it is just like sort of baseline competent, like it's just fine. Don't worry, like nothing exceptional, but it's like baseline competent, and then it would have high points. Instead, we get these 3D shots occasionally as fill-in shots that are genuinely kind of dire. Like that genuinely look like seasonal anime slop, right? Like the filler shit. Like a low but like at the level of like a reasonably low budget isekai trying to do a crowd shot. Like it ooh, that's a little bit odd. That's a little odd. Like they poured so much money into it. Surely they could have been a little more consistent. Ah well. 3, 2, 1, go. And now we turn the Sakuga on, right? Perry Steam? As in Commodore Matthew Perry? Is that the reference there? That would be hilarious. You can sort of tell from the character design which ones of these are NPCs, right? There we go. Airplane noises. Oh, look at that fucking... Oh, we need to look at that in slow motion. I need to see that again. Oh, man, they're really going for it. I hope they gave the voice actors some tea after this. Okay, 3, 2, 1, pause. Really milking that for all it's worth. Not that I blame them, but... That's a fucking... Is that a Godzilla noise? Was that literally a Godzilla noise? Maybe not specifically Godzilla, but it was definitely like a kaiju noise coming out of her there. Here again is some of the stuff I appreciate. How far they're willing to push the character models. Completely deforming. Like, that's a scream and a half, isn't it? Literally to the point that, like, the skin is pulling across the body like elastic. Right, you can see how the nose is almost getting pulled down into the upper jaw. Like she's wearing a suit of plastic. Like, again, there's some things here that remind me of the way that My Hero Academia, in its Sakuga moments, treats anatomy. Oh, the lead animators were having fun on this one. It's really expressive animation they're doing here. That's pretty cool. Anyway, 3, 2, 1, go. I do like the character animation on the announcer as well. She's very expressive when she really gets to go out. Nice detail of showing his eyes there. That's one thing they're doing with his animation. They're being very specific about when they show the eyes. Oh, nice use of the ear. I like that. Hell yeah! Dudes rock! Or horse girl dudes rock. That is genuinely quite charming. Just yeah. Ooh. Oh, the flash animation on those cameras was great. Again, that tacit thing of like, yeah, in the same way that the Pokemon world revolves around Pokemon 110%, just all of pop culture in this universe is just, it's all fucking horse race girls. Okay, we still have 45 minutes of this movie left to go, so what are you setting up for as an emotional climax at this point? I'm curious. Noodle! Yeah, sure. This feels a lot like all cameos. Gotta have a beach episode to promote the swimsuit banner. Oh my god, is that a bottle of water? Interesting lull in the speed of the thing, right? Dun da 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 da. Dun da 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 da. Hey, Ogre Cap! Hey, girl! I haven't seen you in a while. So it is all cameos all the time. I see, okay. Yeah, now it feels like the gacha game is really sort of imposing itself, because this whole stretch of scenes feels very much like, hey, more horse, like, cameo of, like, Jesus fucking Christ, those tires! What even has tires like that? It feels very much like the gacha game imposing itself and be like, we have to have a lot of cameos. We have to a lot of horse girls. We need cameos. What an interesting scene from a structural perspective to throw in here after like that big high point of the derby. Like, it makes sense to have some downtime after that. It's just that the downtime doesn't have a narrative at all. It's all vibes. It's all vibes. I don't mind that, really. Still just in Vibe Town. Still just in cameo and special costume town. Like, nothing still is happening in the plot whatsoever. Literally nothing. That's interesting. It's an odd bioessentialism, isn't it? The whole thing of, like, you have to run because of you're born that way with certain traits that are immutable. Some beautiful background shots. This is emotionally interesting, though. With a kiss. You're at the festival watching the fireworks. This is where you kiss. Have you never watched romance movies before? I do think it's emotionally interesting that they're casting winning the Derby as like almost like emotionally traumatic for her. She's like having PTSD flashbacks. That is emotionally interesting. I wish they had spent more time on that instead of the cameos. I like the animation there. The little leg motion. And the red carpet as like, yeah, as like a... dropping the dream, right? Yeah. Girl, go to therapy! Stop going to the gym and go to therapy! I do like that. I like victory as trauma. Again, operatic. Maximally overdramatic at all points. Nice animation that, like, she's running, right? Watching the race, she's still running subconsciously. Okay, but what are we driving at here? Oh, look, she's forgotten her dream. And there's like there's damage in it. There's a little crack in the thing. Again, it's very like it's very dramatic, operatic, like this object that represents. But it's effective. It works. You get it. No, but seriously, she should really go to therapy. Like, 3, 2, 1, pause. Okay, so this is how they're trying to build the emotional climax of the movie by the looks of it. Is this thing of like, she wins, she like pushes forward, she exceeds all expectations, and at the end of that, all of that victory, this victory that was supposed to be the fulfillment of the dream, there's just like this empty feeling of like, what if, right? Like, is this my peak? Is this all I could ever achieve? Like, will I never be enough? That is emotionally interesting. I do think it's the kind of thing that Pocket Takian is right there. You could just go talk to her, you know? It's like you have a lot of unresolved feeling towards your horse racing girlfriend. Maybe you should go try to verbalize them with her. She also seems to be having some repression issues. Again, the potential for toxic Yuri here is unmatched, is unparalleled. You could do so much good, like really emotionally devastating interpersonal drama between the two of them if you wanted to. I'm a little disappointed that they're not doing that, that it's all people moping in their separate rooms without ever really bridging the divide. Hang on, I need to see my girl. I again, I Cinderella Grey definitely had that same issue, like that issue of like the second half of the anime was completely not the same story as the first, like completely not. But I could not help but be charmed by this horse girl. She's very good as a protagonist for her own story. She's very charming. She's a fun character. Again, first half of her story very good. Second half just kind of does not resolve on any of her narrative beats, but still. And yeah, definitely like there's definitely like the cameo sequence here where it's just all cameos all the time. Oh, look, it's the horse girls from the other things with the horse girls in them, seasons of the anime or whatever. Like this is sort of fan service cameo time. And it does feel like that could have been spent better, sort of diving a little bit more into the underlying emotional issue for Poke. Right, like, it feels like a lot of vibe time where we're just sort of sitting without a clear... Like, without the story really trying to tell us anything. It's just, hey, here's a bunch of vibes. Here's festival. Beaches? Yes, beaches. And running late at night for training. It's all vibes. And it's not until, like, here at the very end of the sequence that we actually sort of dive into what's haunting our main character. And again, the imagery here is so on the nose, right? She's holding herself back. Do you get it? Do you get it? Do you get it? Do you get it? That she's holding herself back? Do you, like, the metaphor is that because she has these self-doubts and she can't get the thought, she's holding herself back. She's doing it to herself because it's a dark image of herself. It's like a mirror reflection that's literally holding. Do you get it? It's very on the nose, right? That's not necessarily a bad thing as such. Like I said, the whole movie is operating on that very on the nose level, right? It's the same thing with, like, all of the sort of surrealist imagery here. It's also very on the nose, right? Like that, the red carpet itself, right? Like the very road of victory, right? Like the very thing that's meant to symbolize having overcome and being the best now becomes this unstable, like, twisting obstruction that is preventing her from moving forward. Right? This ocean, this roiling ocean that's, like, pulling her down and pushing her back. And because of that, like, she fumbles her dream, she loses it, and it falls, and doesn't fall in the soft sand, but it cracks, and it's damaged, and, oh, like, and that's emotionally interesting. I wish we could have had more time in that to, like, sort of really explore it outside of the montage. And again, do you get it? Her image is crumbling. Do you get it? Do you get it? Her image is crumbling. Do you see? Do you get the visual metaphor? Very on the nose. Like, not at all ineffective, but just very on the nose. In a way that's a little bit funny. Occasionally. Ooh, that's cool. So that's what they were doing in that shot. I like that. See, this is a little bit more subtle. Because we have this, like, this classic sort of Sakuga shot of the feet running. And then we get this, like, grim twist of the ankle, right? Her body literally not obeying her, or, like, physical dysmorphia happening, essentially. I think that's a more subtle and interesting visual representation of, like, the idea of her breaking herself down. I do like this as a character animation beat as well. I really do. Like, as an acting choice, the fact that Tachyon is still watching the races and that she's still running, right? Like, that she has this irresistible physical impulse. I want to run. I'm watching this stuff, and I have told myself, and I have built up this persona around, I don't care. I achieved what I wanted, and that's fine. I'm done running now. But that she's still repressing, right? Like, this intense need, this intense competitive desire. Again, very emotionally interesting. The kind of thing that she should probably have a fight with Pocket about, right? Like, that there should probably be, like, a dramatic confrontation between the two of them. And then, like, the visual thing of, like, she's really letting herself go. Her workspace was a lot more tidy, and now it's like, oh, it's all trash, and she's not really taking care of herself because the pain of the retirement, like, this thing that she told herself she was okay with is getting to her. On the nose, but still effective. Then there's this subplot with that character. She has felt very perfunctory to the whole thing the whole time. She has this thing of, like, I'm running to catch up to her, my friend, the mysterious figure from her past that haunts her. Exactly how that's supposed to relate. Like, it seems here that she has this disdain for this other person who's, like, not Like, she has a weak body, it's breaking down, she's coughing, she's sickly, and yet she's pushing herself, and then you have this person who's not willing to push herself beyond the limits to really get there. I don't know. It's a little unclear to me exactly what the function of the relationship between the two of them is dramatically. It feels like, again, and that's the miserable thing about the gacha thing, right? Is that it introduces this layer of constant doubt in me, right? Where every time anything that is based on gacha stuff makes a dramatic choice, right? Like makes a creative dramatic choice about how to present something or what to focus on. The question that's lingering in the back of my head all the time always is, was this choice made because it was artistically interesting for the thing that they were, for the story they were telling, or was it made because we need to sell gacha pulls, right? Was it made, like, is this character there because she's dramatically necessary for the overarching narrative between Tachyon and Pocket? Or is she there because, well, we need to put some more things in the banner so that people can pull for it? And it's poisonous, right? Like, because even if it has nothing to do with that, even if the creators were like, no, we don't give a shit about what gets pulled in the gacha, we don't care. As an audience member, I'm forced to price that in. I'm forced to make that a part of my calculations. Is like, I don't know. I don't know whether each creative choice that is being made here is being made because it's the right creative choice for the moment or because there's a commercial angle. I don't know. And I can't know. And I cannot trust. I cannot trust that it is made of pure artistic intent. It's just, I can't. I'm sorry. It's just not available to me to do that because that thing is there all the time. And that's universal across all commercial art, right? Like, all commercial art has that problem where sometimes you look at like a shot or a piece of a story and you kind of go, was that necessary, or was that there because like some executives did some focus testing and said, well, audiences respond really positively to big dinosaurs, so put a big dinosaur in the movie. Like, that's always a thing, right? That's a universal feature of art under capitalism to a certain extent, right? Like, you can't get away with it. Gacha just makes it more dire. Like, gacha just makes it so much more explicitly dire as a concern, especially because, like, this is fairly high quality as gacha advertisements go, right? Like, as extended ads for a gacha game go, this is pretty damn good. Emotionally interesting. Like, in many places, emotionally interesting. But then there's a lot of the gacha slop that is slop, right? Like, where it very transparently is not about... It's just about, hey, look at this cool thing, you can buy it. Look at this cool thing, you could buy it. Look at this cool thing, you could buy it. Like, you can feel, like, the marketing brackets enclosing everything. And that's one thing that, like, I think I resent about gacha the most, is, like, because the objective of gacha is so nakedly, cynically commercial. Like, even because it's gambling, because it's tied to that whale hunting, addiction chasing thing, right? Because it's tied to those, like, particularly mean-spirited monetization practices, it feels so much more dire, that commercial aspect of it. And it's so much harder to be generous to a story and say, let's not assume that this was done in bad faith. Let's not assume that we're spending time with this character for reasons of trying to, hook another 20-something into spending their entire salary on gacha pulls in our app. Let's not assume that. Let's assume that it's being done in good faith. It gets harder and harder, like, with gacha shit. Because gacha is so nakedly predatory in so many ways. Because, like, this whole scene, like, with the character, like, again, I keep forgetting her name, but, like, she's someone who's already had the experience of having to give up her dream and living with the regret and the what-ifs, right? What if I had this? What if that had happened, right? And she's, like, passing that on. Again, this theme of passing down dreams and generations. I like that. Like, emotionally, I like that a lot. As a beat for these characters, right? Like, that this is her function in the narrative, is to not only pass her dream on and, like, push this person into the future, but also, like, hey, benefit from my experiences, right? I've been through this shit before. I know how to sort of deal with it. I like that. And I hate having that interesting emotional beat tainted by the question of, like, okay, but is this because she's about to show up in a new costume that you can pull for in the gacha app with premium currency Or what, like, I hate having that doubt in the back of my head. Ah, well. Anyway, 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the phone ringing. But I guess I called it! Jesus Christ, the cleavage! Damn, girl! Like I said, the gotcha poison in the back of my head, right? I will say, most of the Uma Musume character designs are not super fan servicey in like there's not that much tits and ass on display. That one, oh boy, that's that's a lot of cleavage on that girl. Not that I mind, but woo. Again with the cheap 3D gliding shots. Because that overhead shot was 3D as well, I think. But that there it works because it's so far away. Ooh, gliding. Ooh, that's... I like that scene, though. Again, emotionally, I like that scene a lot. But those gliding shots, man. Oof. Ooh, that's a really good fist bump. I like the physicality of that. Finally put her in therapy, jeez. Hey, is she maybe lonely? Is she feeling trapped? Is that why it looks like prison bars? Again, obvious imagery, but it's effective. Hey, look, there's a big barrier between them. I like the use, like the sparkle of the dream, right? Oh, hey, look, she cleaned up. And we're right back into vibes mode. Oh, oh, a technical animator had fun with that bridge. Ah, here comes another cameo cavalcade, I expect. Da 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 da. Interesting. I think I'll let this play out, but I do want to talk about what the fuck the story is going for here. I do like that in her character animation. Okay, 3, 2, 1, pause. I do want to call this out because I do think that's a very good animation gesture. Na 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 na. I can't help it. I'm sorry. That's just you can't. Oh, that's too funny. Anyway, I do like this as a character animation gesture. Look at Fuji-san's face, right? Like the construction of it. It's a little thing, right? But the way, like, when she shifts into competitive, she shifts away from I am your like friendly mentor who's hanging out behind the stage into competitive mode. It's a little thing, but they shift like bits about how the eye is constructed, bits about like how she holds her mouth posture, and the relation of like even a little bit about the shape of her eyebrow changes. They become bottom heavy in like the downwards curve. Like it's a little thing, but you can see that shift of mindset just in her physical acting there. I thought that was a really nice. It's a really nice gesture of showing that internal change by a change in how she holds herself. I thought that was quite cool. Anyway, let's finish this out, shall we? 3, 2, 1, go. Ooh, nice grass animation. Okay. We're hitting the finale with the dramatic climax, so now it's time to put the Sakuga on, right? I really don't want to see a shitty 3D gliding shot in this one. Oh, no, there it is. There's a shitty 3D gliding shot. Uh, it's so weird the way they cut corners with that. It's weird the corners they cut with those 3D shots. It's really weird. Shiro Steve. That's a good name. Hey, they put her in a field full of shouters. Oh, I like the animation on that light. That's a really nice lighting effect. Hey, you two should kiss! Nice crosscuts. I like that. Ooh. I wonder who the key animator on that one was. Oh shit, she won. I thought they were going to cut away to black right before. I like the cross-cutting between Tachyon and Pocket there. That was very effective. Cut to credits. Credits. Come on. Oh well, okay. The Hokage. Yes, I know. You'll become the Hokage. Okay, they're animating that in 3D. Oh, to an extent. Yeah, okay, so they're cutting between 2D, 3D shots. Yeah, when they cut to the wide shots, they use little 3D models, and then they hand animate when close. But then why do the 3D shots at all? Like, if you're gonna hand animate most of it with, like, rotoscoping over the models, then why use 3D at all? The corner cuts are so weird in this movie. I mean, I guess if they want to do all those big camera swoops, I guess it makes sense logistically. I am genuinely a little surprised that they only have one idol number in the movie. I thought they would for sure do more of them. But I guess they're just using it as essentially the cap off. Oh, nice high note. Why do those glow sticks look vaguely penis shaped? That was weird. And another song. I think we can probably skip that. There isn't like a post-credit scene or anything? No. Okay. The thematic thing that it's driving at is sort of interesting. Although I do feel like it stumbles open. What I find very compelling about the relationship between Poke and Takion is that sort of mutually enabling dynamic, right? Where they enable the best of each other and the worst of each other at the same time, right? I found that quite compelling in their relationship, and I kind of wish they had done more to make that like the explicit action of the show rather than just the subtext. And it really does feel like at points of like why are these two here, right? Why are they here as like sort of the cap off, as though this was the end of their movie as well, like their movie which has been about them and their emotional journey, because like they weren't part of the movie really. They were secondary, very secondary, tertiary supporting characters at most. The heart of the movie is like the interplay between the two of these, right? And that's, again, it's the gotcha poison in the back of my head going, they were there because they need to be on a banner to be pulled to sell costumes and skins and cosmetics and fucking whatever. Like, that's why they're there. That's why they're taking up space in the movie. That's why they're on the stage at the end, is because of the fucking the commercial aspect of it, right? And that comes at the cost of what I think is emotionally very interesting about this movie, which is these two, right? Where we have like this clearly drawn over here, the scientist, the cold, calculating, rational thinker who only cares about like, oh, it's rational for me to quit running now because of my legs are bad, and also I've done all this, like, so I'm gonna, like, even though emotionally, clearly, she's fucked up and she really wants to run and it hurts her to sort of give up on her dream like that. And over here we have a shonen protagonist, but like someone who operates entirely on emotion and feeling, right? Like someone who's not rationally thinking at all, but who's just like, yeah, hot-blooded, let's go, rah! Right? Like, that's a strong dynamic to start with. I like the emotional manipulation that happens between the two of them. So if we were to cut these two out of the movie, for example, or a bunch of the other cameo shit, and if we were to cut out a lot of the gacha rot that sort of sneaks in around the edges of what could be a very good movie. Oh, that there's so much potential there for something interesting. If the scenes that had been dedicated to these two instead had gone to Tachyon, and specifically, like, we get plenty of screen time for Pocket, right? That she gets plenty of time to deal with her issues. Tachyon could really have done with like another few scenes to dive into the extent of like the repression and like the anxiety and the self-neglect that comes from her trying to rationalize her way out of her emotional drive. Yeah, it's yeah. And so what the movie ends on is like this, right? After Pocket takes first in the race somehow, right? Like that magnificent race is the thing that inspires Tachyon to sort of break through her self-denial and admit to herself that what she wants to do is run, right? Which is the same thing, I keep forgetting her name. Which is the same thing in, like, this scene here, right? Like, that... Like, Pocket has inspired her friend here to go back to running, like, to sort of take up the mantle once again. And even if she can't ever overcome herself or, like, surpass the heights that she once had, the pursuit of it, right? Like, it is worthwhile even if there's a limit you can never reach, right? Like, that's the thing about the tachyon and the breaking of the speed of light and all of that. Even if there's a limit you can never surpass, even if there is a hard barrier in front of you that you can't break through, the pursuit of trying is still a driving force. It's still worth living for, right? It's still worth living for the attempt of it, even if the success never follows, right? That's the theme that we're pushing for here, and that's the thing that Pocket eventually teaches Tachyon. Is like, it's still worth it, right? It's still worth it to run, even though your body is fucked up, even though you might never be able to run the way that you did. It's still worth it to do it, and we sort of get to end on that. I just wish that final moment of healing had been more specifically personal between them, and had come out of like, and that we didn't have these two hangers on just sort of there. It's like, hello, I am also here. I'm a character. I have a personality and a driving thing. It doesn't relate to much of anything else in the movie, but I'm here. If the two of them had had more time to develop that antagonism and like mutual enabling, right? Like the way that they enable each other's worst qualities and best qualities. That could have been very, very interesting. But that's the way it is. Again, I don't know if the wands just look like that in real life, but why? It's like, why are the glow sticks? Why do they have a head on them like that? Why that? I guess they're just shaped like that. I thought they were just cylinders. Why does it look like a whole field of raised glowing penises? Honestly, that's weird. That's weird. I'm not weird, right? Like, you're seeing it too, right? And it's like, again, it feels like the movie is prevented from seeking any kind of conclusion, because of course their story, like, they can't conclude these characters. They cannot be concluded. Like, they can't be over, right? Like, because again, they have to be in the gacha game forever, as unlockables and things that come back again and again and again as fan favorites and things like that. It's where, again, the gacha poison, right? I feel like if they hadn't had that mandate to leave the ending open, right, rather than conclusive, it's an open ending, right? Like, we get to this thing of like, oh yeah, she wins the race, and then like, yeah, we'll keep winning and racing, and I'll keep... So like, Pocket doesn't really get to the conclusion of her quest to be the strongest. She just gets to like a midpoint from which things can proceed, like the promises of greater adventures in the future. They're really having fun with the fucking scribbles. And so the movie ends in a way that, like, emotionally at the end of it here, I feel unfulfilled. Like, I feel like, okay, cool, I got half the story. Where's the conclusion, though? Like, what? But that's just something that a movie like this just cannot provide, right? Which, okay, fair enough. It really is, like, much in the way that when I watched Cinderella Grey, I understand why this shit grabs people. Because there's so much being dangled right there in front of you, the potential, right? There's so much in the way of possibilities. The characters are rarely more than fairly archetypes, right? Like they're rarely much more than like their tropes. Which, you know, that's the case for a lot of anime, but there are those hints of like an emotional complexity underlying them that I think is interesting and which I think is worth exploring. Like I understand why it has fandom. It has fandom for good reason, I think. It's just, yeah, it feels like I'm repeating myself, but it really does feel like the gacha is the millstone, right? Like, it feels so much like a movie that is trying to get at something that, like, kind of has an emotional point that it wants to make, and it keeps having to deal with this albatross that's just, like, around its neck, which is sell horse girls. Sell more horse girls. The horse girls have to be sold. And but I can see why people get into it. Like, beyond, like, obviously the game and the gambling mechanics and the incredible dopamine loop that you get from engaging with gacha games, that doesn't hurt. A lot of people get dragged in by that. Which, again, if you have ever had any problems regulating your gaming, and I do mean that in terms of video, like, if you've ever had, like, a month of your life where you did nothing but play World of Warcraft because you got so hooked into, like, the dopamine loop of an MMO or whatever, don't do gacha games. Watch the animes, like watch the movies, I guess. Don't play the games. Like, don't ever engage with gacha mechanics because, like, that puts you in the risk zone. If you've ever had any problems with compulsive gaming, if you've ever felt that dopamine loop in your brain be engaged in a way that you could not control, that you couldn't stop yourself, especially if it's to the point where you started, like, neglecting showering or eating properly, or like it had consequences for your relationships, don't play gacha games ever. Watch the animes, read the comics, or the fucking whatever. That's fine. Just don't ever engage with the loop. Not because you are guaranteed to be gambling addicted. Absolutely not. But because the risk is there. Right? Because, and if the risk is, if you do get hooked on this shit, it could ruin your life. Anyway, hello, chat. How you doing? Someone's talking about... I'm trying to scroll through and see... This is a celebration of horse history, not an ad for gacha. No, it's not. It's an ad for gacha. I'm sorry. Let's be absolutely fucking clear on this. This is an ad for a gacha game. That is what this is. This is a commercial product whose purpose is to get you to purchase gacha pulls. Right? Let's just start there. It can also be other things. Like I was talking about, there's a lot of emotionally interesting stuff happening between the characters here, but it is a gacha ad. One of the horses from the finale you assumed was in the game wasn't, though. Sure. Sure. Like, that's fine. That doesn't really change the point of what I was saying. Like, this is first and foremost that. And you can't disconnect it from that ever. And like I said, like, there's definitely a lot of stuff in here that's about, like mythologizing horse racing, right? Building on whatever the history of that sport is. I don't know the history of that sport, and I don't care about it, particularly. I care about the movie as it is. And the movie as it is, as a product, is, compromised. Dantsu being on stage wasn't an ad for her banner. Sure. But it's an ad for Uma Musume, the gacha game, right? Which is the point. I'm trying to read through and see what people are saying. It's about the racing history. And again, like, insofar as the movie is about the racing history, that's fine. Like, that means it means something else to people who are into the racing history, right? And that's fine. I'm not into the racing history, so that's not available to me as a thing. I can only judge it from my own standpoint. But again, like, I do think it's worth, like, this is the thing we talked about with injuries, right? That in Uma Musume, the universe of that, a horse gets injured. Oh, well, horse girl gets injured. Oh, well, she just has to quit running and live her life out fully. There's this illusion of the darker sides of it. So, like, celebration of horse racing history, sure. Certain parts of it, a very specifically curated bit of horse racing history. Absolutely, right? It's a mythology. It's referencing horse racing history as a touch of flavorful romanticism and the game of the horse. Yeah, like, it's a mythologizing of horse racing as a thing, right? Which is the other thing of, like, there's that part of the gacha poison is, like, Cygames, to my understanding, are, like, in order to license and be able to use all of these historical racing horses, like, they have, like, a connection to the actual horse racing industry. And, like, to the whole industrial thing that's around that. A lot of people are talking about, like, oh, the Yakuza connected to it. I don't know how true that is necessarily. From the limited reading I've done is, like, yeah, the Yakuza is involved in gambling because, of course they are, but not to the extent that they control any part of Uma Musume, right? IRL Tachyon's owners were like, we could keep her running, but we'd rather use her insane genetics to breed more children instead of risking a deadly injury. Yeah, and that's, again, the animal being used, right? Like, that's a matter of, like, the framing that you choose of, like, either she gets to have a happy ending where, like, she gets to live out her life and she gets to be, like, the sire of many children. The other way of looking at it is, like, oh, like, we just found another way to use this thing as a factory for commercially productive assets, right? IRL, she was a man. Yeah, a stud, right? It's the thing of, like, yeah, the horse gets the fuck a lot, but also the horse is still being used as, like, essentially a factory, right? Like, it depends on your framing of how you see the thing, right? And, like, animal rights activists would certainly not see a horse being used for studding and breeding in that way as, like, necessarily a positive. Featherless quadruped, not a man. That's funny. Almost like how American football, yeah, very much in the same way. Like American football players are used in very much the same way that, like, horses are used in horse racing, right? Like, they are bags of meat whose function is to, like, spend their vitality and their, like, physical ability running around on a field, taking severe injuries until they are no longer useful, at which point they are discarded, right? Like, until nothing more of value can be extracted from them. Horses, occasionally, semen of value can be extracted from them, but that's still the thing, right? So, like, I would be interested if there's any articles anyone has written, like, sort of laying out the bits of this movie that are referencing actual horse racing history. Because, like, there's probably some interesting historiography that could be written. Not by me. I'd rather not there's probably some interesting historiography that could be written about like cultural memory as mediated through something like this. In the same way, I have a book that I read at university, which was about like cultural memory and the Cold War and the way that like the Cold War history was mediated and preserved by Hollywood specifically, and like the way that that affects how most of the Western world remembers the Cold War relative to, for example, how like China remembers it, how Russia remembers it, the way that that's mediated through cultural products. It's hard to engage with art wholeheartedly when it's being pushed by corporations. Like, yeah, well, I kind of don't think so. I don't think it's hard to engage with it wholeheartedly. I think there's just an extra duty of care that you have to take towards your own mind, right? That the image that's sold to you in these, like, it's the same thing. Like, you know what Disney is doing with the remakes, right? Like all of the remakes that they're doing. There's this thing that happens in a lot of them where they're sort of like looking at, like, it was very obvious in the Beauty and the Beast remake, right? They had absorbed all of those criticisms of Beauty and the Beast. It's like, oh, it's Stockholm Syndrome, and Belle's an abuse victim, and the Beast is, like, evil, and he's like... They've absorbed all those criticisms, and then so much of the remake was about trying to sort of whitewash, like, trying to correct for these perceived criticisms, right? And trying to sort of wash that bit out of the movie, right? And, like, that doesn't mean you can't engage with the Beauty and the Beast live-action remake. It just means you sort of have to have that in mind that, like, outside of the artistic goals of the film as an art object, there is this corporate goal of like sanitizing a particular history. Like the Dumbo remake is another good example of it. Like the ways in which that tries to sort of sanitize over the more unsavory aspects of the original movie, right? Like removing the crows, for example, which were like not vaudeville, the other one, the minstrel show, which were minstrel show characters, right? Just sort of removing those out of the picture because Disney doesn't want to have its history associated with that era of culture in the same way that they have sort of like locked Song of the South away as a movie that they just never release anymore. Like mostly it's not really that it's hard to engage wholeheartedly with it. It's just a matter of you have to keep a critical eye. Right? Like, I don't find it hard to engage with this movie at all. Like, even though, like, I see gotcha, like, I have the gotcha paranoia in me. Around every turn, I question everything in terms of, like, is this there for dramatic purposes, or is this there because someone somewhere needs to push something, right? And I can't know, right? Like, I can't know that. I can't look into the hearts of the creators. I don't have access to that. So I have to look at the thing itself, and I have to ask, dramatically speaking, what does each scene contribute? What does each character contribute? And, like, the fact of the matter is, like, regardless of sort of the extra textual bits of why these characters are in the movie, is, like, dramatically, to the actual central narrative of what the film itself is about, they just don't contribute, right? Like, these are there in ways that are actively taking up space, which is perhaps more needed, in my opinion, that is more needed by the central dramatic relationship between these two characters. And like, oh, it's a reference to actual horse girl history, or actual horse girl, the real ones, the actual ones that you can go and watch racing in Japan right now. It's like, yeah, sure, but the movie is still the movie, right? Like, the dramatic piece of fiction that's in front of us is still suffering from this prioritization of this extra textual thing. So like, oh, it's a reference to real life horse history. Okay, cool. As a viewer, I don't care because I don't have any investment in actual horse racing history. I have an investment in the film itself, and the film itself, I think, suffers for the focus that these characters get that doesn't really contribute to the central drama of the thing. And that's like, this is a thing that's true for like a lot of adaptational things. Like in a lot of adaptations of things, you will get these moments in a narrative where it's like, Kingdom Hearts 3 actually comes to mind. At the end of Kingdom Hearts 3, like near the ending, there's that scene in the Keyblade graveyard where you're fighting the bad guys and the Heartless, and then the Heartless swarm comes in and it's like, all is lost. And then there's this moment of like, oh my god, something's happening, and a swarm of Keyblades comes out of nowhere and pushes back the darkness, and you get this flash of some fucking character from somewhere. Like, a character from one of the mobile spin-off games, right? And he's there, and it's like, I'm rescuing you in your dire hour of need, which is like a dramatic, and it's like this thing of like, oh, look, it's the guy from the other thing, the extra textual spin-off game over on the mobile games that's coming in for a dramatic save and the thing of the thing. And like, if you've played the mobile game, if you're really invested in the mobile game, if you care about that part of the story, it's like, that could be a cool moment for you, right? Where you go, oh shit, it's the thing from the thing, hey! And you're kind of excited. But if you've only played Kingdom Hearts 1, 2, and 3, you're looking at that and going, who the fuck is that guy? Why is he here? Why is a dramatic moment being spent on this character who's not relevant to what the actual Kingdom Hearts game itself, like the actual game I'm playing, has been about? And it's like, it's a fan service moment, right? And like, so all of the horse racing history stuff, that doesn't add any value to this movie for me. Like, none whatsoever. Because I have no investment in it. Right? And that's the only standpoint from which I can experience the film, is from the standpoint that I am at right now. Maybe if I read up on it a lot and came back, I'd have a different appreciation. But like, that's the case for anything, right? In the same way that like people who are real fucking Napoleonic military history and naval warfare nerds, they get a lot more out of Master and Commander. But the thing about Master and Commander is, besides all of the shit that's like really pleasing to a person with a specific historical fixation, it's also just a good movie that works on its own, like as a narrative thing in its own right, as a like self-contained drama between characters. It just works on its own. And that's the criticism I have here, is like, if I need to have read however many pages of like racehorse history, you know, to fully enjoy this thing, then the movie in and of itself is a flawed product, right? Like, it's a product that lacks a wholeness to it, because it requires you to have engaged. And that's the same thing with Kingdom Hearts 3, right? Like, that Kingdom Hearts is another series that has this problem of like, it tends to expect the audience to have invested, or like, and the MCU suffers from the same thing, this expectation that the audience will go on the wiki, right, to sort of earn the right to understand everything that the movie is trying to say. And it often weakens them dramatically. Like, certainly it's a big problem like that the MCU was struggling with for a long time, is like this constant mounting pressure for everyone engaging with it to have read the fucking fan wiki, right? Which I think like fundamentally weakened a lot of the movies, to the point that I stopped engaging with it. And I was reading the wikis. Like, I was one of the guys who knew the shit. And I still found it tedious and annoying that so many of the movies were so predicated not on their own, like telling a good story of their own, but predicated on, you're going to go watch this movie because this movie is going to be important homework for the next movie, right? I think that's like a problem that infects a lot of media, pretty much across the board, across genres, is this IPization of everything. There's definitely a lot of passion put behind Uma Musume. Yeah, Jesus Christ, like the Sakuga, the fucking... Like, we spent quite a lot of time talking about that, just the sheer craft on display. Like, the work that the animators put into some of these sequences. Both this, and like, also, I'm still stuck on how much I liked... I don't know if I put a marker down for it. It was somewhere after here. How much I liked Tachyon's like emotional repression here, like as a character. Like that fixation, like the deterioration. Like, I thought that was really cool. And that's not lazy. Like, you don't get that from being lazy, right? And that's the devil's bargain, not just with gacha, but with like, that's always been the devil's bargain in the entertainment industry, is like, you engage with the money men and they want a return on their investment, right? And a return on investment doesn't mean we make our money back. It means we make 10 times what we put in, right? And that's that's the MCU thing, right? Like any MCU movie that doesn't make its budget back and then like a fuckload of money on top of that is a failure, right? Like that's a flop in the eyes of Hollywood, because making your money back and being able to reinvest into the next movie, that's not the thing. Like the thing is make $1 billion at the box office. That's the only thing that matters to the blockbuster industry. And so the devil's bargain that creators in that space make is like, okay, I get access to an obscene budget to make like a movie that can have literally anything in it that I want, but the price is what I make has to be commercially viable to like a very specific degree. That's always been the devil's bargain. It's the same thing here, right? Like the creators, the actual artists and creatives who make this movie, they take that devil's bargain as well. They get access to like the infinite pile of money that Cygames is willing to provide them to make something where like, I don't think I talked about it enough, but like the backgrounds, the spaces that these characters live in are all so beautifully realized. But the price is this thing has to push a certain amount of gacha. Like ultimately that is the success metric by which this movie is going to get judged as a commercial object, is did it push enough people to spend money on the gacha app to justify the amount of money we put into it. I suspect that the people who finance this movie don't really care about the box office for it that much. I suspect the main metric for success that these things get judged on is gonna be, do we see a clear uptick in engagement with our core product, which is the gacha? Because like I know that's how Riot like when they assess and judge whether to spend money on something like Arcane, whether to spend money on something like esports, like the main thing that they judge on is like when we have worlds, when we have big esports events, when we activate the audience, does it drive people to spend more time in the actual video game? Does it drive people to buy more skins? Does it drive people to engage with our core product? The answer is yes, and so they sink more money into it. And that's always the devil's bargain, right? Like that's always the devil's bargain of this kind of commercialism. That's part of why, as we've been watching we've been watching Glitch Productions with their little indie thing, and like that's part of why I like engaging with Spindlehorse. It's why I like engaging with Glitch. It's why I like engaging with, I've been reading a lot of webcomics recently. Because like these are things where there is always a commercial aspect to it, right? Like Spindlehorse, the budgets that they operate on, there's always a commercial aspect to it, especially now that they're engaged with Amazon. Like Has Been Hotel Season 1 was deeply compromised because Amazon and A24 weren't willing to give it more than 8 episodes to work with, right? There's definitely always something there, but there is definitely when it is a relatively small independent studio. Same thing with Silksong, right? Hollow Knight and Silksong. Like, you know that the Silksong developers, they don't have to give a shit about money ever again in their lives, right? Never again. Not even once. They never have to give a shit about money ever again in their lives. And so they don't. They don't care. They're not selling Silksong for $80. They're pricing it at $20 because Hollow Knight was $20. And they're putting it out like fucking whatever. And it's going to be a complete product. And maybe there'll be DLC, or there will be DLC, but it's like... And so you have that certainty of like, this is a bunch of creatives who have a lot of money to work with, and they're just kind of doing it for the love of the thing. That is freeing, and that's very satisfying. Because it means you don't have to price in the commercial aspect of it so much when you're thinking about it, when you're engaging with it. But there is still a commercial aspect to it, right? Like, certainly Glitch Productions, I see the Australian government, like, sort of has a hand in their financial success, right? And that's a thing that's perhaps worth keeping in mind when you're dealing with like the shows that they put out. Is like, yes, absolutely, this is independent animation that's made by a bunch of passionate people who have found a lot of success. And also, right, like there's this element of like the state has a hand in it. I find it interesting how much indie production gets romanticized by most online coverage. I mean, that's in part also a problem with, like, we're off topic now by a mile. That's in part a problem with the games media industry as a whole, is that it has been, like, you talk to games journalists nowadays, like, they are deeply depressed about how much their industry has been hollowed out over the past 10, 15 years. Like, just so much of it has been so hollowed out. So much of it has been turned into a extended marketing arm for the big AAA industry. And so, for journalists who work in games games coverage right now, is like, yeah, it's no wonder. Like, first of all, that journalistic standards are struggling to be upheld in many places, but also that they might romanticize indie development because, like, oh, thank God I don't have to fucking engage with a AAA industry like marketing arm. I can just talk to developers and hear them out about what they're making with their games and shit. Like, I think if there's a degree of romanticization going on, it's not just about people misunderstanding indie development so much as it's responding to conditions in the industry. Right. And like, that's the other thing. Like, when we're talking about the commercial aspect, the ghost that haunts all indie production is that, like, even if you're successful, most studios that have a successful indie game, they can't take a flop, right? Like, if they put out their next game and it's a fucking flop, that might still kill them, and those people might still lose their jobs and their livelihoods and their healthcare, and like, it's precarious to be in the indie industry. It used to be the thing that if you're in AAA, your job is at least moderately safe, in the sense of, yeah, like, there's a lot of layoff, there's a lot of churn in the industry, but there's also constantly more jobs coming online, and like, people can sort of migrate and move around between studios and like look for better like salaries. There was a modicum of stability in the games industry for a while, in the AAA games industry. That is like, the bottom is falling out under that shit right now. And like, that used to be the trade-off, is like, you could go indie and that's much more risky, but you get a lot more creative freedom, or you can work in the industry, which is safer, and you have to work to a commercial, like, to a commercial objective. That used to be kind of the trade-off, right? That doesn't exist anymore. Like, the AAA industry is no safer than indie anymore, which is horrifying, frankly. Anyway, we got off topic with this one. But yeah, I don't really care about horse racing history that much. That's just not a point of interest. I'm interested in the movie that I actually watched, and the movie that I actually watched was frustrating because I really like the central relationship between these two. I wanted that to be more of a focus. I wanted more time to be spent with the two of them having a personal dynamic with one another, and all of the stuff that kept running in sideways and getting in the way of that was just distracting and frustrating, and I don't think it was dramatically satisfying to have those other things happening. As like, it could be dramatically satisfying for people who are into horse racing history, but I don't care about horse racing history, right? It doesn't really matter to me. But anyway, we're not sitting through the credits song because, again, not really my thing. You can go get it on your own. It's on YouTube. It's catchy pop. It's not my thing. Like, I've listened to a bunch of the Musume songs before. They just aren't my thing. We need more horse girl Yuri, and I want to see character development and toxic relationships. Yeah. Basically. I will also say, having watched the movie as it is, it's hard for me to parse like the extent to which this is like a celebration of horse racing history. It was hard for me to parse that out anywhere. Like, I don't think I felt that in the way that moments were treated here. That it was like, this is like a reverent adaptation of a moment in real history. And I don't. I'd have to spend a lot more time developing a critique of the movie specifically. But in terms of like, when you want to do an homage to a special moment in history in a film, what's the visual language that you use for that? And I guess in the case of this movie, it would be like big chunky Sakuga, right? Like, it would be big expressive, explosive Sakuga moments. But I guess the question that introduces to me then is like, okay, do I then have to question like whether an explosive Sakuga moment is about the characters in the movie versus how much of it is about this is a reference to something that happened in the real world? That's a question I have. That's not really a criticism. Anyway, that was Horse Girl movie. Some weird corner cutting with the 3D. I'm still weirded out by that. I'm still weirded out by some of those really shoddy, really cheap looking 3D shots occasionally. I'm still weirded out. I don't understand why that happened. Like, that feels like such a misapplication of the tech. And it feels very seasonal anime-ish. Like, that doesn't feel like something that should happen on like a full like cinematic movie production. But then again, it's an anime movie. It should probably be understood more of a kind with like the Pokemon movies. And so I guess from that perspective, it makes sense. It's just the kind of thing that like some of those gliding shots of the characters in dramatic scenes where they're just sort of floating around a corner. And like, it's clearly this very basic 3D run cycle. And they're not even really staggering the frame rate on it in the way like to match. Like this just, it's especially weird because the background looks so good. Like the background is like this gorgeously hand painted, like sort of photo referenced, beautiful background shot, and then you have these like primary colored, very like not so great. Like look at the lighting on the compositing on the characters as well. It's weird that they cut these corners specifically. It really is. Like, it's more understandable for, like, a really wide shot like this that you can kind of, like, yeah, okay, that's fine. Like, every production has to cut corners somewhere. Some of those 3D shots, I just don't understand. Because so much of the rest of the production quality of the movie is incredible. Like, these shots at the fucking summer festival thing, absolutely fucking gorgeous. And then there's those weird 3D gliding shots I don't understand. Especially at the climax, at like the final race of the film. Like here, at the very end, I was like, okay, the end is the place where you don't cut anything. Like, this is where you let it all out. This is where you let it all hang. And then... And I will say, like, the running animations on them are better here, but you still get that uncanny gliding effect where the speed with which they move across the screen doesn't really seem to match the animation they're presented with, and it's so weird. It's such an odd thing to cut on. Oh, well. Anyway, I've gone over that long enough. I think this is the end of that. Once again, well, I guess there's no point saying that at the... Yeah, no point saying that at the end of the video. Hello, thanks for watching YouTube things. Comment, whatever, goodbye.